Hey, what's going on? Okay, we're back and we're going to make another 1x2 Lego brick, but I promise this one's going to be faster. You probably haven't seen it, but I have a 1 hour and 17 minute 3-video series about how to do this same thing that we're going to do in hopefully between 5 and 10 minutes. So I am going to make my 1x2 Lego brick out of the default cube. I'm going to press N on my keyboard to open up this transform panel so that I can just key in the exact dimensions of this. So the width of my Lego brick is going to be 16 millimeters, 16 mm for the units. The depth is going to be 8 millimeters, and the height of my brick is 9.6 millimeters. Yes, okay. While I have my cube selected, I'm going to press period on my numeric keypad to zoom in. I'm now going to model the studs. I'm going to stick them on top, and in order to figure out exactly where to position them, I'm going to actually go into edit mode by pressing tab, and I'm going to make 2 loop cuts on this. So if I hit Command R, I can make a loop cut this way, and press escape to commit it to its position, and I'm going to hit Command R again, and I'm going to go loop cut that way. So that is the dead center of my brick. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to position my 3D cursor along this edge. If I press 2 to select this edge only, and then hit Shift S and say cursor to selected, it's going to take my 3D cursor and it's going to put it right in the middle of that edge. So I'm now going to press Tab to return to object mode. I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to add a mesh cylinder. And of course it's enormous because we're working on a brick that is tiny. So I now need to change the dimensions of the X and the Y. Nope, that's the scale. Don't change that. I want to change the X and the Y dimensions of my stud, and that is 4.8 millimeters. And I need to make it the right height, which is 1.6 millimeters. So that's 1.6 millimeters on the Z. Now my stud is exactly the right height. All I need to do now is just move it up into place, because notice right now it's half in the brick. The way we're going to do that, of course, is by pressing G while we're in object mode and we have our stud selected. Press Z to lock myself to the Z axis. I'm going to press B on the keyboard. That's going to let me select some vertex, and I'm going to select one along the bottom edge. Doesn't matter which one because they're all on the same Z. And then I'm going to snap to this corner. Now we're going to make our second stud. We're going to do that by making a copy of this one with Shift D. I know that if I press X, I can lock it to the X axis. And I know that my 2 studs, the centers of my studs are 8 millimeters apart, 0.008. We have our 3 objects that we need to make into one object. I'm going to do that by selecting the brick and going down to my modifiers tab and pressing add modifier, and I'm going to add a Boolean modifier, and that's going to allow me to select a second object. Right now we're working on the brick. I'm going to press the eyedropper. I'm going to point to the stud, and I'm going to add these 2 together with a union operation. I'm going to apply that. Now we're going to do the same thing again. Don't worry about the funkiness. In a second we're going to take care of that. Going to apply, we're going to add another Boolean modifier because we're going to do the same thing for the other stud. I'm going to say union. I'm going to use the eyedropper to pick stud number 2, and I'm going to say apply. So we now have our cube, and we still have our 2 studs. I don't need either of these studs anymore. I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to press X on my keyboard and delete them. Now what we need to do is we're going to make the hollow in the bottom of the brick, but before I do that, I need to apply the scale. While I have the brick selected, if I hit Command A, I can apply scale. Now notice my scale is 1 by 1 by 1. Now that we have that, I am going to go back into edit mode. Now we have 4 faces, of course, because when we made the loop cuts didn't just cut up the top of the brick, they cut up all the way through. That's fine. We're going to get rid of these edges here and turn this back into one solid face. I'm going to do that by pressing 2 to make sure that I'm in edge select mode. I'm going to select these 4 edges. I'm going to press X and I'm going to delete. Nope, I'm going to dissolve the edges. And that'll just make them melt back into the surrounding faces. And now we have one face again. If I press 3 on my keyboard, I can switch to face select mode, and I'm going to select this bottom face. And I'm going to press I, because what we're going to do is we're going to do an inset operation. How much of an inset do we need? 1.6 millimeters, 0.0016. And enter to commit that. Now what we need to do is we just need to move this up inside the brick. I'm going to do that. Let's turn on X-ray mode first of all so you can watch it happen. But I'm going to, while I have this face selected, I'm going to press E on my keyboard to extrude. We don't want to extrude this way. We want to extrude up inside the brick. And we want to do that by 8 millimeters, 0.008 meters, and enter to commit it. There we go. We're almost there. Now we just need to make our pin. Well, just like we did when we made these studs, we have to make sure that the 3D cursor is where we want our new object to spawn. And I want the new object to spawn dead center here. I'm going to do that by, while I'm in edit mode, I can press 1 to make sure that I can pick a vertex, and I can pick this vertex in the middle. And now that is where I want my 3D cursor. So I hit Shift S and say cursor to selected, and I can create my cylinder. But let's make sure that I get out of edit mode first. I'm in object mode. I hit Shift A to add new geometry, mesh, cylinder. And of course you can't see it because it's the X-ray mode is on. Now the pin is smaller than the studs. The pin is only 3.2 millimeters in diameter. So again, I'm going to change the X and the Y to 3.2 millimeters. There we go. So that is actually the size of the pin. Obviously, it's way too tall. For now, let's just bring it down to something that's closer to where we want it. 0.5 meters. No, that's of course way too big. 0.1 meters. You know what? Let's just S and Z. This will let us scale in the Z axis. Okay, now I'm going to move this in the Z direction. I'm going to get it out of the way so that we can work on it a little bit better. And I'm going to create a copy of it. We're going to select it and hit Shift D to make a copy. Now, I want my copy to be in exactly the same spot as the original, so if I press Escape, the copy is still there. I now want to change the dimensions of this new cylinder, and it's actually half of the dimension, so it's 1.6 millimeters. So I want to change X and Y to 1.6 millimeters. Now, I'm going to make this a little bit taller. We're going to use it, and we're going to subtract it from the original cylinder. But if I say Shift Z, that'll let me make sure that the ends are clear of the ends of our first cylinder. And we want to do another Boolean modifier, almost like before, only this time we're going to subtract the inner cylinder from the outer cylinder. Boolean, and we're going to do a difference. And I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to say Apply. And once I remove that second cylinder, you can see that we've made a perfect Lego pin. So now all we have to do is position it. I'm going to turn X-ray back on because that will help me see what we're doing here. I am going to move this with G and Z, and I'm going to press B because I'm going to lock one of these vertices to there. And the last thing I need to do is just make it the right length. I'm going to do that by selecting it and changing into edit mode, pressing 1 to select all of these vertices. I'm going to press G, and I'm going to press Z to move in the Z, and I'm going to press B to lock to one of these vertices, and I'm going to lock to here. Now all we need to do is just join these two together in holy matrimony. We are going to add a modifier. We are going to add a Boolean modifier. Notice we make really good use of this Boolean modifier. And we're going to do a union again, and we're going to be unioning this pin, and I'm going to apply it. And there we go. A Lego brick. In record time. Probably not record time, but a whole lot faster than my first time. So, shorter form video. I hope you like it. So, stick around. Hit subscribe. I'm sorry. I promised myself I wasn't going to say that. But please do, because I want to have an audience, because I enjoy making these videos. Also, if there's something specific you'd like me to model, and it doesn't have to be a Lego 1x2 brick, it could be, anything else, drop a comment below. Thanks for watching, and happy Blender.